Welcome back everyone to ChiliDawg's Corner Indie Game Reviews, where this episode we will be talking about the very short but necessary to own retro style game Kamiko. Kamiko is a top-down action game developed by Skipmore Game Studios. It was initially released in Japan and was very well received, and then it was released in the US, the UK, and Australia not too much longer afterwards. You can find it on most platforms, including Switch, Steam, and Xbox, for the small price of only $4.99. The plot centers around the Kamiko, which is a high priestess called upon by an omnipotent entity to break the seals between the transient world and the dead. She is gifted the Imperial Regalia to slay these demons and ultimately save the world from chaos and destruction. There isn't a lot of narration in the game, therefore don't expect an incredibly elaborate plot. However, at the points where there was narration, it was almost poetic. For example, when you're about to face the second to final boss, he asks, "For what reason dost thou believe in God?" And then your character doesn't answer. And then he says, "Thine silence in itself is an answer." And for some reason, I found that to be kind of like a nihilist or existentialist type of quote, very poetic, kind of like Nietzsche, God is dead and we have killed him, something along those lines. Overall, the playthrough was about an hour and a half. There was only 4 levels to this game, so I think my blind playthrough, I completed in an hour and 50 minutes. There really isn't any character development or an investment or an emotional connection that you make, but that's not what the game is centered around. In summation, the story is gonna get a 7 out of 10 because at the points where there was narration, it was poetic, but looking back, the story, the plot, everything was kind of a little cliche. So yeah. Gameplay is what this game is all about. It's very retro, Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past vibes. The mechanics are simple. There are only 2 inputs, attack and dash. At the beginning of the game, you choose between 3 different characters, which are basically your starter Pokemon personified as hot 2D pixelated chicks. Yamoto, which is who I played with, is like a blue water energy vibe, and she wields a long sword type weapon. Uzume is like the earthy archer type, and Hinome was like a fiery figure wielding a sword and shield. The puzzles were difficult for the simple fact that you do not have a map, okay? But I did find that if you pay attention to what shrine you open, you can kind of tell where you are on the map. For example, if you open up a shrine that is like on the top left, then you know that you still have the bottom left and then 2 shrines on the right side of the map, so you can make your way down and to the right. This will save you some frustration and confusion because let me tell you, it took me like 3 levels to figure this out and to catch on to that. And like I said, there's only 4 levels to the game. Enemies do respawn whenever you leave an area, so be aware of that. If you're carrying an item from the other side of the map, you're going to have to avoid the enemies as you backtrack, because if you run into them and you drop this item, you basically have to start all over and retrieve the item again. Diamonds in the game is what refills your health, and they resemble rupees that you can find in The Legend of Zelda. I kept calling them rupees, but they're diamonds. You find the diamonds by bashing random pieces of terrain, or sometimes enemies will drop them. There really is no instruction on how to play this game. There's nothing that you can do to pause the game and bring up, like a little cheat sheet or anything like that. You kind of just have to figure it out as you go through experience. And that itself is the experience of this game. So with all that in mind, we're going to give gameplay for Kamiko a 10 out of 10. The art style is 8-bit plus, so as you can imagine, it's very nostalgic. I felt like I was playing a Super Nintendo game, and it was like a nice change and break from today's graphic style, I didn't really have to dig in too deep to find any critiques. The music, I believe, is described as chiptune, and it is what you can remember from the classic arcade games. The music was beautiful and easy to zone out to. I don't have any negative critiques about the art and the music because it executed what the game was trying to be perfectly. It was absolutely retro. It achieved that in every single way. Art and music is going to get a 10 out of 10 as well. Finally, Kamiko gets a final review score of 9 out of 10. It is absolutely worth the $5 that you will pay for it. Luckily, in the last scene, it ends with God basically allowing Kamiko to keep the Imperial Regalia and instructing her to go explore. So hopefully this is a setup for a sequel, because I want more of this game. I can't just do 4 levels of this game, so hopefully we get to see some more. Well, we're gonna wrap it up after that. Thank you guys for stopping by for this episode of ChiliDawg's Corner Indie Game Reviews. Hope to see you next time. Bye.